Steve Galere, hello and welcome everyone that's tuning in to us here for a very special Punchestown Festival preview. And I'm delighted to be joined by multiple champion trainer Willie Mullins, who knows what it's like to have plenty of success at the festival. Willie, thanks a million for joining us.
Thank you. Great to be here. Nice time of the year, just preparing for Punchestown. Like the end of term, I think when you're going to school, you're looking forward to the last exams and getting away for the summer holidays. So that's where we feel we are at the moment, anyhow.
You have spoken before, Willie, I guess, about what Punchestown is like, what it means to you, but also as a venue and as a place to bring horses. It's always a place you like to come, and obviously at the end of the year, the end of the season, and with such huge prize money, it's always been a target.
It is. From the time we were kids growing up, Punchestown was always the end of the season festival. But it's grown so much under the new management, the vast quality of the races, the huge prize money, the way that Punchestown management are able to keep the ground for good horses, that they're able to keep it safe. I remember my father often worrying about going to Punchestown after a dry April with your good horses. And they didn't know much about watering that time, and they didn't have any watering. There wasn't systems in place for it. So it's a huge testament to the executive in Punchestown at the moment that they can manage to water the track, the amount of tracks there, the hurdle tracks, the steeplechase tracks, for 5 days racing. That's a vast amount of ground compared to maybe doing a mile and a half or 7 furlongs or a mile of a flat track. The logistics that they have to put up with in Punchestown are absolutely huge. It's a credit to them, the organisation that they do.
You mentioned in your father's time, one of the things I found amazing, again this year, watching you racing all through the year, is your mother goes racing nearly every time you're racing. She obviously has as many Punchestown memories as you have. I can only imagine what she has. She must be some inspiration.
Yes, she has an incredible appetite for the game at her age, and absolutely, delighted any day she goes. And she just loves meeting people. It's a part of racing that, probably racing hasn't used enough. The actual social aspect of it. Nowadays, racing is all about, it's presented as a gambling medium, and the social aspect of racing is huge. And when you see the amount of what people get from actually just going to a race week and meeting, and during COVID, live racing kept people. People got so much out of it. I was amazed at the feedback after COVID that people said, "Isn't it great? We could see horses running every day. We could see actual live sport rather than sort of replays of matches and things like that." Live racing and the social aspect of racing is huge, I think, and it's a little bit undervalued with all this the emphasis on gambling, which is neither here nor there to me. But I love the social aspect of racing.
Yeah. Well, I think we all get a kick out of seeing Maureen rocking up dressed to the nines and in the presentations with you. We should ask Willie, obviously, those of us that are used to seeing you race in the last few months, and you were sort of limping around a bit. You're in convalescence after having had an operation on your hip. Tell us how you're coming along. Will you be fit for Punchestown?
Yeah, got a new hip. Yeah, no, I hope so. I was in Chamor the other day, and I'm on the gallops every morning, so missed very little time. It's fantastic what surgeons can do nowadays. I was amazed. 3 weeks ago today, I went in and they kicked me out of the hospital on the Wednesday morning, and I think I was back on the gallop, not for every lot, but for the important lots the next morning. And I missed a few mornings. I did a little bit too much, but early on. But and then when I came off all the painkillers, it soon settled me back. Yeah, but it's coming along nicely. So hopefully I'll be well able for Punchestown.
Great. It's giving you a chance to catch up on Man United and Kilkenny hurlers, I suppose.
Well, I don't know about the Man United game the other night. Now was enough to put anyone off it. The Sevilla game, but there we are. How not to
Absolutely.
play soccer.
Um, uh, just we talk about Punchestown, and it's the end of this fantastic spring sort of campaign. I suppose Cheltenham, so much of Punchestown, and we like to see the Cheltenham horses come through and see the form and what happens from there. How do you reflect on Cheltenham now?
Well, we had a fantastic Cheltenham. We sent a huge team of horses over. Probably, well, it was our biggest team ever. But that doesn't mean that you're going to have your best results ever. We're very happy. We're very lucky to win some of the most important races, the Gold Cup, Champion Chase. When you can bring those sort of races home, it's great. And then if you can put another few onto it, as we did, with novice horses who are the future. So the future looks nice as well. We're happy how the whole thing worked out, and also how the horses came out of Cheltenham as well. We had very few problems, if any, I think. So overall, it was very good. Bigger numbers don't mean bigger successes, and people, I suppose, expect us to have huge figures. And even, we had 6 winners. Probably people expect us to have double that amount, but it's not as easily done. When you go over there, you realize, just how hard it is. Every inch of ground is fought over. So if you lose a length at the start, you don't get it back like you would, say, in an ordinary race in Ireland, or maybe during the season in England. In Cheltenham, if you lose a length, that's a length gone. You don't get it back unless your horse has the ability to get it back for you.
Yeah. And that's the thing, I guess as you achieve, people expect that bar to keep going. But then, as you mentioned there, the future, you're still thinking of that. And it is interesting, we have seen in the last few weeks how not every horse carries on its form, whereas it's a thing that I've noticed with your horses, that they often do deliver in, whether it's, wherever it's Aintree or Fairyhouse and into Punchestown. Is that something you aim for, or is that your facilities, or is it the way you campaign them, or it can't be done luck anyway?
It's probably what we aim for, because Cheltenham, you want to have them really right, and then we like to have them really right as well for Punchestown. But to get the festivals in between can be a little difficult. Fairyhouse and Aintree, and I'm also as probably amazed maybe is the right word too, that the horses can sometimes give their best performances, or what look like their best performances, in Punchestown, so that they improve the whole season through. And that's, maybe it's the way we do it here, but it does happen that way, that they can seem to carry on from Cheltenham to Punchestown and either holding their form or improving. You get the odd one that's not able to do it, that they fall and they falter, and maybe if they have a very hard performance in Cheltenham, might be able to take it. But usually there's enough time to recover from Cheltenham.
You did obviously win the Irish Grand National with I Am Maximus, and we had Geyer de Menil, I guess, ran a really cracking race in the Aintree National at the weekend. Obviously, there's a lot of chat about the events around that. Willie, you were obviously watching it at home and the coverage of it. What are your thoughts of everything that happened around it and the race itself?
Well, I thought Aintree managed hugely well. I mean, we were at home watching on TV. They maybe had more information than us. We weren't sure what was going to happen, whether this race was going to go ahead or not. The jockeys weren't allowed out of the parade or out of the weigh room. I thought maybe they should have been out and ready to go at a moment's notice. But at least they dispensed with the parade and a lot of the stuff that goes on before the race, if they had time to do. But then, we didn't know. We saw different TV pictures of things that were happening, and it's very hard to make judgments on what's going on when you don't know the full background. So we hopefully we'll find out maybe more about it as the weeks go on or the days go on. But certainly the start is something that needs to be tidied up big time, and not only for the national, but I think for jump racing in general. Whereas in flat racing, you have them in stalls. If it doesn't go into stalls, well, then you're withdrawn. But I think a lot of jockeys maybe cynically hold up starts when they haven't got a good position. I think, is there a case sometimes that, if the race is advertised at 5:15, if you're not there at 5:15 with your horse, that's your problem. The starter shouldn't have to wait for you unless there's a real problem that he can see outside the horses or the jockeys, circumstances that couldn't be foreseen. But to me, they should be ready to go and facing the right direction, and be ready. And too many jump races, I think, are stopped with false starts, waiting for one horse who has no intention of going. And even if he does go at the end, why upset 25 other horses or 30 horses, depending on any horse in the race, for one horse who is probably of average ability if he doesn't line up? And we've had plenty of horses over the years like that. You get your chance to line up, and if the rest of them are in the right order, let them go. I think the time of waiting. It's not. I love the way they do it in Japan. The bad starters, when they're lining up in flat races, they're put in the box first, put in the stalls first, and if you can't handle that, well, then you don't have a starting stall cert. But in England, I see in England and Ireland, too many days, there's 12, 14 horses loaded up, and then they're waiting 2 minutes for one horse to load, instead of putting that horse in first and let him wait for the others to be loaded, which are all loaded within, I'd say, 60 seconds, because those other horses are going to go back in. I think I'd love to see the start of flat races tidied up, and I'd love to see the start of jump races tidied up too.
Excellent. Just before we look forward to Punchestown, Willie, there were a lot of things obviously struck me, but two things I struck me through Cheltenham. One of them was you mentioned, I don't know if nervous was the word, but how nervous you were watching Lossiemouth. And it just struck me that with all your success, I don't know if that was a particular reason, or is it just, when there's expectation there, and despite all your success, it still gets to you.
Lossiemouth in the Triumph Hurdle. I was particularly worried when she hit what appeared to be the front, or she took off with Paul at the top of the hill. It's a long way out for a mare to be in front, and she took over herself from Paul, actually, and I could see Paul wondering, I don't want to stop her, but I don't want to let her go either, and he did fantastically well to manage her from what would have been 5 furlongs out at the time, and to keep enough in reserve to finish the race. So it's when you're in the middle of a race and you're looking at what is probably one of your bankers for the week, trying to destroy it and throw it out the window, you get a little upset about it and taken up with it anyhow. But we were, Paul did a fantastic job on her, trying to settle her and keep a little bit in the tank for the final couple of furlongs up the hill in Cheltenham.
And he's had a few great rides, obviously loads of great rides. And you'd have been well aware to sort of chat around. I don't know, would you call it criticism when you criticize him in Dublin Racing Festival? We're sort of not used to, I guess, racing trainers doing what soccer managers do. Like, is that you just being honest with media, or is it an instinctive response?
Yeah, I didn't call it. I didn't call it criticism at the time. I just thought it was a tactic that didn't go right. Things. Put it the other way around is what I'd asked him to do when I and Maximus in the Irish Grand National. I had tied him down to instructions because he's a particularly awkward horse that doesn't like going right-handed, and I'd asked him to go down the inside, stick as close to the rails as he could, keep horses on his outside the whole time. And after circuit, Paul changed his mind. He did the exact opposite. He went down the outside, and it worked. So to me, in Cheltenham, Paul was the jockey in the Gold Cup. In Fairyhouse, Paul was a horseman in the Irish Grand National, you know, so all the thing that he gleaned from pony racing, from hunting, from just riding, he put into use on I Am Maximus. I thought it was a fantastic ride. Whatever we all thought about Galopin Des Champs in the Gold Cup, I thought his riding in the areas was just excellent. I thought it was something top drawer. To me, I always think a good jockey is a guy that can pull a race out of the fire and win on horses that he shouldn't win. That's the difference between good jockeys and, well, great jockeys and good jockeys, I think. And he pulled that one out of the fire. That was absolutely extraordinary, right? I think, you know, the Gold Cup, we thought he was the best horse going in, and Paul made him look the best horse coming out of the race. But I Am Maximus, we didn't know what it was. We were hoping that he could spring a surprise. You know, a novice in a handicap for the first time, going the wrong way around. He's probably better going left-handed than right-handed. He looked it in there. And, you know, he was an extraordinary ride, I thought, a real horseman's ride.
Absolutely. Just one last one before we go into Punchestown. Someone eagle-eyed saw you as you doffed your cap, that there was a little photo of Quevega inside it.
The Virgin Mary, was it?
What was that about?
Yeah, no. Oh, I always keep a photograph of Quevega in my hat. No, it was just it's actually it's just a business card that I have in case someone picks up the wrong hat. But my details are on the other side of it. It's just which is, I was flabbergasted at the detail that you could see actually from that far away. So anyhow, not sure why wouldn't Quevega be in my head.
That says a lot that Quevega is the one on it, though. Fair play.
Yeah.
That's great, Willie. Thank you. You mentioned Galopin Des Champs there. I think we should probably start with him looking at the Ladbrokes Punchestown Gold Cup on Wednesday. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 entries of the 13 entries in the race, but obviously he's the one we all want to see. How has he been, and is he on target?
Yeah, he's in great shape. We're aiming for Punchestown since Cheltenham. Great prize money, fantastic track, as we'd said before. So he's in great shape going there, and all going well. You know, normal going well. He'll turn up there next Wednesday. So he's then we have Gianna del Capitano, Shakenburg Capitano pulled up in the Grand National, so he won't go there. Shakenburg probably 3 miles is not his thing, so we'll probably skip that. Janadil is a horse that could go there as well. So you know, hopefully we'll be nicely represented in that race.
Just on Galopin, obviously he did all he did, and he progressed through the season, and yet you have, you know, some people, I suppose, casting doubt until he went and did it. Were you reading this and going, are they nuts? Are they stupid? Or, you know, you were convinced all along, weren't you?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have any worry until about 4 furlongs out, and then I said, right now, what I was convinced about is going to happen or not, and which I was I surprised myself, you know, because I just took his novice hurdle form to be that he will stay 3 1/4 miles easily as an older horse, and so, you know, I didn't have any fear about him staying all year. And I was surprised myself how much doubt crept in as they rounded the top of the hill. And but, you know, Paul seemed to be going well at all stages. The only little blip was that, was it the third last where he seemed to brush the top? But the minute he did that, Paul just pulled him together, got him in behind the others, got his second wind on him, you know, gave him just a little bit of time to recover. You could see Paul's body language telling you, okay, this fella's got plenty in the tank. Let's just play it the way it should be played. Keep out of trouble, come wide, just jump the last 2, and then hope that the confidence we had in him staying was right, and it was. So you know, when he got over that little blip of the third last, it looked in the bag, except for something like happened last year when he fell at the last after jumping it fine, you know. So then yeah, it was good to have a cool man in a situation like that.
Yeah, no. But as you said, he was the best horse, and he'd have stayed another bit. It was excellent, fantastic performance. Um, Moving forward to Friday, Willie, the Paddy Power Champion Hurdle. Again, you have four entries, and Stateman has no Constitution Hill to contend with. He probably ran a very good race in Cheltenham.
I think so. I was happy with him. He will run here. He's in good form. We've Sharjah, Vauban, Echoes, and Rain in the race. So we'll see whether Echoes goes for the mare's race or not. But the statement in good shape, and as you say, no Constitution Hill. So hopefully he'll be the one to beat there now.
Yeah, yeah. And Vauban, it was always just going to be a hard year for him, wasn't it? Coming out of that 4-year-old campaign.
I think so. Yeah, we're just sort of treading water, getting through the season, probably give him a few runs on the flat after Cheltenham. Just sometimes, you know, only once every 30 years, maybe a 5-year-old can win the champion hurdle, is good enough to win it. Possibly looking at him, you'd think maybe he needs a longer trip. Maybe he's not a champion horse. He might be more you know, 2.5 mile horse or something. So we'll see. But we'll give him a good shot at the flat, I think, later in the season to see what he can do there.
Will he go to Punchestown? Will he, or are you?
Oh yeah. The plan will be to go to Punchestown.
Yeah. Obviously, an argument. We're at the William Hill Champion Chase on our opening day on Tuesday, and he retained his title. And you know, again, sometimes people are talking about the other horses, but sure isn't part of the trick is to show up on the day and produce, and he's done it without any fuss 2 years in a row.
Yeah, I was particularly pleased how he did it. He'd been working like that at home. You know, I suppose we were all a little disappointed when he disappointed at that rescheduled Ascot race. But I think we learned so much that day as well, which meant he was a very, very good winner of the champion chase. You know, just the white fence might have upset him. You know, we sharpened up tactics, those sort of things, and I think he's a fair sort to do what he did 2 years running, and in the manner he did it in Cheltenham. Probably won't have those ground conditions. I think, you know, those ground conditions are very helpful to him as well. Probably won't get those in Punchestown, but you know, if he does get wet weather going to Punchestown, he's going to be very difficult to beat, I think, with the clear run.
And is he happy or kicking on, or do you think he's happy enough to sit in behind if something is going quick enough?
Well, that's the one thing he can, you know, you can do either one with him. If something, we've Gentleman to Me in that race, and he won't be hanging around at the start. I think that's his nature. But Energamine can follow away. There's no problem. And Paul had confidence in him now to do both. I mean, when you look at the race against Shishkin last year, that was a tough decision on a jockey as well, because people were looking at Shishkin. Paul was looking at Shishkin, thinking, you know, he didn't, you know, after 3 fences, I think Paul said, right, we've got to forget Shishkin and concentrate on the race. And sometimes, as we saw in one of the novice events this year, jockeys were looking at one another, and next thing the horse in front won in Cheltenham. And, you know, it happens. It's just the nature of the way racing is. And, you know, so Paul was lucky enough on Shishkin that when he was against Shishkin, that he made that choice, went on and won his race, and came back this year then and won it again. And if I can keep this fellow right, you know, there's every chance he can go back to Punchestown and win. So we're looking forward to
that. You also have Shakun, first of all, and Blue Lord in there. What are the likelihood?
Yeah, I imagine, looking at the field here, we could have 4 runners in that race. Yeah.
Okay. Then we have looking at the sort of the Ladbrokes Champion Stayers Hurdle on Thursday. Everyone was delighted, I presume you included, with Monkfish's comeback behind Asterion Furlonge, who probably was nice to see him get his head in front as well. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 entries out of the 17 in this. Obviously, Classical Dream, interesting too. Monkfish, delighted, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I'm looking at the race, and the first thing I look at is Classical Dream. He's the one with the that can go back to Punchestown and win first time out. And he ran in Cheltenham. It was, we went to Cheltenham. We didn't know whether we were going to make it or not, but we thought his work the previous week was good enough. We took our chance. I think you'll see the real Classical Dream in Punchestown. It's great to see Asterion Furlonge and Monkfish coming back. Those horses have had long breaks. They have little turnaround time from Fairyhouse to Punchestown. That's a big negative for me.
Yeah.
So it is. Fine, but a big negative, and their ratings over hurdles wouldn't be in the same. Well, it might be just about the same thing as Classical Dream, but I think Classical Dream is the one. What do you want as well? Probably just not good enough. But no, I'd be sticking with Classical Dream. I think the short turnaround time, if another 3 weeks for either Asterion or Monkfish, maybe, but I won't get caught up in it. To me, if they ran a good race in that race, I'd be very happy. And just looking down through the race here, it's Sire de Burley will hardly run again, I think. So Maria's Rock will hardly run again. I think Classical Dream has a great chance there.
And then Willie, I guess if we sort of go back and go through the rest of the races from Tuesday, obviously we're not going to mention every horse, and some have a number of entries, but like if you look at the Punchestown Champion Novice Hurdle on Tuesday, the 2-mile race, Gaelic Warriors obviously entered in the mall, Ilete Tom, Impere Pass, and Facile Vega, those sorts of ones. What are you looking at with them?
Well, all the ones you mentioned are ready for action. I imagine, I very seldom change the way I do things. I suppose when you look at Facile Vega and Imperial Pass, you're probably going to try and separate them. But Diverge comes into the race after the form of Liverpool. Big time, he comes in. Gaelic Warrior might want a longer trip. Hunter's Yarn, probably a little disappointing. So they're ready. We'll just see how they work this week and what way we will look at it. But they're ready for action anyhow. Yeah, the same day we have the 3-mile Champion Novice Chase. We're well represented there. Just looking at Appreciated. Braun probably won't run after he's run the other day. Ardemini won't run. James de Burley could go out to 3 miles. Ramilez Saldier. Sir Gerhard might go for a shorter trip. Allegory de Bassi might go for a shorter trip. But Appreciated is just sort of. I think he disappointed me a little bit in Fairyhouse. It might be too much coming back again. However, maybe we've nothing left to lose. Maybe just let him go there and take his chance. He's a fair sort, I think, on his day.
Yeah. Is he just a bit of a puzzle at the moment, Willie?
Yeah, sometimes horses go off. You would have thought going up to 2.5 miles that it should be enough for him. Sometimes horses lose their form. He might be just one of those horses that has lost his form a little bit. He just disappointed me now in Fairyhouse. Yeah. Maybe extra bit of trip now, but he wouldn't be going there too fresh or anything like that. It's going to be a tough race. Yeah. That race is. So although looking down through the race, I doubt Jerry Colomb will turn up. He's going to be one of the higher rated horses in the race anyhow.
Yeah. Time to think about it.
Well, a lot will depend on what he does, but he won't do much. I mean, I think one bit of work will probably do him, maybe two, but it'll all depend. He seems to be fine. He was fine after the race. He's been eating and drinking, and that's usually enough to give him his chance, let him take his chance.
Yeah. On Wednesday, you have the 3 mile, the Irish Mirror Novice Hurdle. You mentioned Gaelic Warrior again is in there. You have 9 entries. What are you thinking?
Well, I suppose Gaelic Warrior is 1, Embassy Gardens 2. The next Parmenion we'll have a look at him again. Maybe just he disappointed me as well. Seabank Bistro is 1. Shan Valley Kid, I think, is a horse that hasn't given his best yet. And, I think, Embassy Gardens, Gaelic Warrior are probably the 2 best there.
Is Embassy Gardens better than we saw in Cheltenham?
I think he could, but he's a horse that could be improving too as we come into the spring. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he's going to run a big race there.
Yeah. And obviously, we did just sort of touch it, but Gaelic Warrior ran a cracking race, and he really is. He looks to me to be just getting the hang of it all the time, like that he's still getting better, that he's learning the game all the time.
Yeah, I think he's a horse that probably needs to go out and trip.
Okay.
He shows plenty at home here, but he did win the 2 mile handicap in Ladbrokes. But I think he might be better off once he goes out and trips and maybe gets over a fence as well.
Okay. Willie, just the obviously the race and stay at Punchestown, the champion bumper race. It looks like John Kiley will go with a dream to share again, but you have plenty of darts to throw. What are you thinking on that one at this stage?
Yeah, we've got a nice field of horses here. Ballyburn was very impressive when he won the other day. Very hard on himself, but I think he'll be better off the next time. Dancing City is a horse that I think is improving. It's for me, it's good enough to be in the field. Rathgall Boys performance in Roscommon when he was second to John Kiley's horse. We were a little bit disappointed on the day, but his form looks well now, so he's there as well. Tully Hill looks a fantastic horse. When he won, he looked above average. Western Diego, a nice type, and Westport Cove, another nice type. I imagine Ballyburn, Dancing City, it's for me. Tully Hill would be, maybe Western Diego would be the top ones there. We have plenty to throw at it, thankfully, because it's always a good sign what you might have for your novice hurdlers coming on the following season.
What would you see Patrick on at this point?
I don't know what those last 4 I mentioned. I imagine he wouldn't be outside one of those anyhow.
Okay. Moving on to Thursday, you're at the Barberstown Castle, the Novice Chase, the 2 mile Novice Chase. We're obviously, well, you tell me how have Fabiolo and Dicer Dynamo been?
Yeah, both of those have come out of the race well. San Roy might run there too. I think he seems to have come back fine from Aintree, and we might roll the dice and let him take his chance there. So it's a big prize. He won't be doing anything else after that, so we'll let him take his chance maybe.
El Fabiolo was obviously outstanding, Willie. It was so exciting, and Leopardstown was, but to then go and do that again, come up the inside jump, and it shows everything you want from a 2 mile chaser.
Yeah, he just looks like he could be the real deal, and could be one contending for championship honours next year. We certainly just hope that we can keep him right, keep him sound. And the type of performance he put in was fantastic. So he's a real nice prospect to have in the yard for next season.
And Dicer Dynamo is none the worse for his fall. He wears his heart in his sleeve, and I think everyone falls in love with him. So it was great to see him get up and walk away.
It was. He can be his own worst enemy, but a lot of people like that in a horse too, that he's so exuberant and loves his game. I'm hoping as he gets older and he gets a bit wiser and learns how to just settle and temper his enthusiasm. But of course, sometimes, half his ability might be in his enthusiasm, especially for 2 mile chasers. But he's always a horse to have, to be afraid of, I think, in one of those races. One day he'll put it all together and maybe put in a huge performance.
Yeah. Moving on to Friday, we have the 2 mile 3 novice hurdle, the Alana Holmes Champion Novice Hurdle again. Lots of entries. Some of them we've mentioned before. How have the horses again come out?
Looking at Champ Kylie there as his chance. I don't have any negatives about Champ Kylie. Facile Vega might come into the reckoning there. Gaelic Warrior is one that could come in there. Impere Pass, no problem doing 2.5 around Punchestown. Nick Rocket was very good in Fairyhouse. Might just leave him now. He's in great shape, but there's a right shine to him now after what he did in Fairyhouse. Whether I need to run him again or not, I don't know. Parmenion could go there. I think that's about it. Samajest, I'm not sure. Shanbali might probably go for the longer trip. So, we'll be well represented there, I think.
You just mentioned Facile, and I know it's maybe more likely the two, but do you see, does he shape like he might want to stretch out, or is that an overreaction on Cheltenham?
I'm not too worried. I mean, I always thought his dam Quevega had plenty of speed to win over 2 miles, and I think she did earlier in her career in Punchestown, but we always went down the longer road with her because we had, I think, Hurricane Flying sort of any power around that time. This fellow has plenty of speed. We saw that in Cheltenham. He was so fast down between the third last and the second last. So he's not short of speed. It's just using it at, it's just the way the race worked out in Cheltenham. But he's like all our novices, they're usually entered in both the 2.5 and the 2, or else the 2.5 and the 3, one or the other, whichever way we can swap them around. So I don't have much, at the moment. We're just waiting to see. Hopefully they'll all be sound and we'll have that choice to make when it comes to declaring them.
Because I suppose Imperial Pass is the same, definitely has the speed to win over 2 miles, doesn't he?
Yeah, he showed that. We ran him in the Moscow Flyer in Punchestown before Cheltenham. The speed he showed in Cheltenham was fantastic, but then again, that was against 2.5 mile horses. So we'll make that decision when the time comes, I think, rather than trying to make it now here at the moment anyhow.
Yeah, sound. And then we're into Saturday and nearly holiday time. The final 2 grade 1s. We have the Coolmore Irish EBF Mayor's Champion Hurdle. You mentioned Echoes in Rain. I suppose you've had that. You've had that constant, 2 miles, 2.5 miles. What are you thinking?
She could be a difficult ride over 2.5 miles. But rating wise, she would look probably the one here. I'm not sure many of the English horses will come over, but looking at it here, it would look like the race to go for. We'll see. Brandy Love probably would prefer to go left-handed, but I think she'll improve a good bit on her Cheltenham run, and then she wears it well won't have any problem either. Maybe she even runs further than 2.5 miles, but they're all in good form.
And listen, Willie, we were talking about Lossy Mouth, and obviously Gallimore. So and others, Blood Destiny, you're probably looking for a strong entry in the Ballymore Champion 4-year-old hurdle. It's you know, are you going to send the same horses that went to Cheltenham?
Yeah, I'm looking at this race here. Zenta had a hard race the other day, so she probably, I'd say, is finished for the season. Lost him out, Gallimore, so definitely go. Teo, he ran in Fairhouse, I think. So Blood Destiny, just a little disappointing Fairhouse. Maybe he should have another go. And Gust of Wind, I think, should have another go as well. We'll be well represented there.
And just in terms of Lossy Mouth, finally, you know, again, you mentioned how she more or less pulled Paul to the front. To do what she did in those circumstances, and then how much she has to learn. And I know next year is next year, but she's obviously a highly talented filly.
She is. She's just got a huge engine. She's got huge reserves as well, because, you know, we haven't missed much with her this season. She's been Christmas, Dublin Racing Festival, Cheltenham. That's a lot on a filly, and she's not the biggest filly in the world, but she has a huge constitution. So hopefully we just ask one more day out of her. I think, you know, there's no reason to say that she won't give it. She's just so laid back. I don't think racing or anything phases her, takes too much out of her. She's you know, really top class. So she is.
Yeah. And Garla Masso looks like would stay, you know, the way she ran in Cheltenham. Would she go up and trip in time?
Probably when you're looking at 4-year-olds, you look at them and say they'll all probably need to go up and trip, you know, if they're able to do this at this end of their career. A lot of them are maybe just turning their 4th birthday. So they usually end up 2.5 milers, 3 milers even. You know, so they would have to say they would all look to do that. You never know if something can just retain its speed with the type of stamina they show. I suppose looking at, hopefully you might get a champion hurdler out of one of these. And really what you're looking for in champion hurdler is a 2.5 mile horse that has a bit of speed. So, you know, there's some nice horses there. I think Blood Destiny hasn't shown his best yet to us. I think maybe he needs another year. You know, might need another summer's grass under his belt. There's another horse there that Zarak the Brave. I think he's going to be ready to run. He's a nice type. He showed a lot and then got a colic during the season, and we had to put him to one side. But he's a horse to keep an eye out on too.
Okay. That'll be by the time that we have the Ballymore Champion 4-year-old hurdle. It'll have been a long week, and you'll be hoping a successful one. You're looking forward to it, Willie.
Yeah, you know, I think Punchestown is a tremendous festival. I think, you know, it's lucky it's that bit later in the season. It usually gets the weather, gets grass, gets everything. It's set in the afternoon, late in the afternoon, when people can get to the races and enjoy themselves. It's got a huge amount going for it.
Well, we're all looking forward to it, Willie. Thanks so much for chatting and going through the horses and chatting about a few other things. And best of luck with the whip, and we'll see you very soon.
Thanks, Daragh. All the best.
Thank you.